we getting started on time. Let's get the word out and then fire off this Bonnet Chronicles. And welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC. And we are going to get this party started. It is only Tuesday, and it feels like 2 weeks have passed. There's been so much going on, but I feel like the most important thing we have to address, I am going to get fired up about, is the fact that we have Psy-Ops going all over Twitter right now, and it's ridiculous. And what makes it worse is it's supposedly black accounts that really don't engage with people, but all of a sudden want to have viral tweets about what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. And for those of you watching who don't understand what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi right now, it's awful. But it's what happens when you have a predominantly black area in a red state. It's just like what happened at NC with the coal ash. It's just like what happens in plenty of towns in Tennessee, plenty of towns in Arkansas. What's going on in Jackson, Mississippi is the result of Tate Reeves, their governor, taking billions of dollars that was supposed to go for infrastructure and things like water and fucking wasting it, giving $77 million to Brett Favre. And there's just so much corruption. But of course, you get black academics and people on Twitter who don't understand politics. And let me, because I muted the young lady, and I don't want you accusing Mr. Jeezy, who is a friend of mine, of spreading this. But this Harriet Eve, who, I don't know every black person on Twitter. I don't act like we're all just one monolith. But I always find accounts like this suspicious because she followed it up with the normal DSA sounding far left brat bullshit of, oh, it's just sheeple. It's just you on the Dem plantations coming after me for asking the question. And it's not a question. You wanted to know where all the black activists, rappers, celebrities, politicians, blah, 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 Michelle Obama for some reason, who in the black community to vote blue no matter who, dinging us who vote, of course, because I'm sure her voting record's stellar. While Jackson, Mississippi is being ignored in the midst of a humanitarian water crisis. Granted, what's going on in Jackson is awful. Just like what went on in Flint was awful. Which is why when we got Gretchen Whitmer in and we started to really focus on things, Flint isn't out of the water yet, but pipes have been put down. People are able to drink and get clean water. It takes time. And unfortunately for Jackson, Mississippi right now, you've got an asshole leading your state. And this is why I've been stressing to our people and beyond, and to white people especially, that we need you to understand that on a state level, if you have assholes leading your state, if you have assholes who don't care about certain demographic, shit like what's going on in Jackson is going to happen in your state. And this is why it's not blue no matter who, because it fucking matters who. But we need more Democrats leading on a state level basis. We need more Democratic senators. We need more Democratic House members. And we need more Democratic governors. You want issues like what happened in Texas with their grid? The winter's coming. They're already predicting a harsh winter here in Michigan and other states. And unfortunately, for those who live in states run by men like Abbott, run by people like Kemp, run by people like DeSantis, yous are at risk whenever Mother Nature decides that, well, we're not going to give you rain for a while. So here's a drought for you. Water crisis. We're going to shut down your power during the winter. Sorry if you freeze to death. And it's because your GOP governor decided, I'm going to be buddy-buddy with the power people. We play golf together. We play tennis together. We hang in whatever Messianic lodge, and we believe in our weird theological right to be rich over taking care of our constituents, which was what you were voted in to do. And unfortunately, for black people, we are always at the bottom of the barrel, and then you have these fucking psyops. Because this young lady wasn't even the worst. We have literal memes being shared by fucking celebrities And people who should know better looking at you, Tom Morello. You literally went to school for sociology and you shared a meme that had absolutely no basis to ding this administration, which is doing all it can, ignoring the fact that Mississippi got $4 billion for revenue spending. Their state doesn't earn that much. Their state is constantly in the red, but we allowed an allotment and they wasted it. And that's the problem when you have a Republican running your state. And I know some people don't want to hear that because you have drunk the conservative Kool-Aid. You refuse to see the forest for the trees. So this isn't for those types. This is for the people who understand what's at stake. We have a midterms coming up. We have several people who need to be out of work, who need to be replaced by those who want to get the job done. And not just for constituents that vote like them. Because unfortunately, as a pragmatist, we have to be real about who benefits when we elect Dems. Even those wannabe Trump 2024 motherfuckers, even those troublemaking assholes will benefit under a Democrat. And that's just the way it is. You cannot say progress for me and not for thee. That's how the other side operates. That's why so many of us suffer under them. We can't be stupid about this. And unfortunately, we have a lot, and welcome to the chat, Terry Antico. They have been hammering the whole idea of black voters. They want us suffering. They want to get young ladies like this on Twitter talking about, well, why are you voting for? Look at all the humanitarian crisis. But the worst are the ones that are trying to link this to the Ukraine. Oh, Biden's giving the Ukraine money. Yes, because the Ukraine is going through a humanitarian crisis too. By a fucking Russian despot who is giving rubles to you motherfucking ashy bitches to be on Twitter causing trouble. These aren't slick. And unfortunately for you, a lot of us have cut off contact with the media, who I'm going to get to in a little bit as well, because they've been on some bullshit of late as well. But for the rest of us, all we have is checking facts. All we have is gathering receipts. So when you pull shit like this, asking where are the black people, why aren't we talking about Jackson, Mississippi, what can we do besides vote? You have a little idiot in Tate Reeves running that state into the ground. Mississippi has always been red. It has always been a source of issues for us. From the marches back in the day when Martin Luther King Jr. was alive, the whole idea of having to have bus boycotts because Jim Crow was heavy in that state. Know your history before you call out black people on this humanitarian crisis, which is one of many. They are far from the only state that when a Republican governor was running shit, things went into the ground. Looking at you, North Carolina. For a brief history, under McCrory, he decided his magnum opus was going to be to attack transgender North Carolinians. He decided to try to roll out his version of Don't Say Gay with his HB 12. And all it did was lose the state a ton of money because we lost the All-Star game. Several acts decided we can't perform in the state that's this biased. And McCrory lost his seat to Roy Cooper. This is what happens when you push too far with your constituents. So all we need for you guys that are upset about Jackson all of a sudden that want to use Jackson, Mississippi as your way to venture into politics is to remember that Jackson is being run into the ground by Tate Reeves. And if you want better for people in Jackson and all of Mississippi, you need to vote blue. And it does matter who. It matters who represents you on a state level. It matters who represents you on a local level. And I can't believe that I have to keep drilling this in, but this is why I do these Bonnet Chronicles. Because too many people forget that this is a state level issue. The federal government gave them a $4 billion allotment. $4 billion could change so many people's lives. So many other states have put in stimulus checks for their constituents, rebuilding roads, doing stuff with that money that they're supposed to do. But GOP-led states, oh no, it was party time for them. They're running around on yachts in Italy. They're misappropriating funds left and right, and their constituents are the ones holding the bag without water and sometimes without power during some of the worst months. It is storm season in the South right now. For those of you who don't live South that don't understand the power of a hurricane, having somebody like Def Santis as your governor is shitty. And I'm just so sick of the people who want to be politically disconnected, except to ding the Biden administration, who are doing their damnedest to clean up all the shit that 45 did, on top of dealing with the fucking reality of the fact that that man committed espionage. There is so much to do, and it would be so much easier if we had a full Senate majority to match the House majority that we have, that we need to make stronger. But some of you want to play games. And it's really infuriating at this point when you have social media pushing these kinds of psyops. This young lady, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that she was doing anything else but being a clout goblin, which is the reality of being online. You're either trying to make yourself more popular or sell something about yourself. Everybody has an angle. Some people just want to make friends. Some people just want the popularity they didn't have in high school. Everybody is online for a reason. But you have got to stop making your reason to be the Twitter main villain of the day. And you really need to stop trying to make that tweet go viral when it's not factual. You're calling out black leadership. You're calling out black celebrities to handle what's going on in Mississippi. All that, you could have organized drives to make sure that Tate Reeves is out of a job, because he is the reason why people in Jackson, Mississippi are suffering. And he's far from the only one. I know that a couple of Bonnet Chronicles ago, I talked about that small town in Tennessee. I'm blanking on the name, but I know you know the story. They had all kinds of things building their town up, including a new plant that was supposed to be built there. And the white people decided, we don't want you to prosper, so we are going to revoke your town charter unless that business pulls out. This is the kind of shit and shenanigans that goes on in these states. And I know that some dusty hotep that lives in New York or LA or out of touch with the South wants to go, well, then we should just let the South succeed. We should let them suffer. That's not going to help any of us. That whole attitude of letting people suffer, letting your own people suffer because you don't live in the South, is so asinine and ridiculous. I've lived in the South for 20 years. Some of the most deepest, honest, down-to-earth people I've met still live down there, are still trying their hardest to do their best by their people. And it doesn't help the levels of corruption, but it's not insurmountable. All we need is people to turn out. And I don't just mean my people, because as you've seen, they will try to suppress us with voter ID stuff. They will close down places where we can vote. This is where we need all you well-meaning white people that jump into our mentions to not all of you who wear those pink pussy hats and go to protest and talk about BLM in your bio, to turn out and vote. It can't just be on us. And if you consider yourself a Democrat and are mad about Roe, if you are considered a Democrat and are upset about what's going on in Jackson, what's going on in Uvalde, what went on in Buffalo, all of this stuff needs to motivate you to do your bare minimum and vote. Don't give in to these fucking obvious psyops. And like I said, this young lady wasn't even the worst of it, because like there was that meme that was being passed around that I refused to give amplification to. And then there were blatant people complaining about Biden helping the Ukraine, and it was like, y'all need to stop. You're making it a bit too obvious. But when ruples are low, they'll get anybody that'll make a tweet go viral. They don't care if it's an easily picked apart tweet at this point. And with the fact that there is a literal war going on, kids are being slaughtered, homes are being destroyed, that you have the nerve to ding this administration for doing their humanitarian efforts here and abroad, is shameful to you. Because if we were being rained down bombs on, you would want aid and help. Some of you can't see outside yourself, and I am glad that you don't do much more than tweet online, because your lack of empathy as a sociopath gives me pause. I have a reason for my being able to cut off emotion and feelings towards people and things. A mental condition for my reasoning. And even I am more pragmatic and want a better world because, heck, it makes things easier for me. I'm at least real about why I do the things I do. I'm sick and tired of seeing this world burn. It's not fun. I know some people are like, oh, it's chaotic. No. I want stability. I've seen the way societies that take care of their people, that give people safety, security, food, shelter, and that education prosper. And we should be at that point. Some of us are old enough to remember that this was supposed to be the point in like Star Trek and all of our favorite sci-fi series where humans were supposed to get their shit together and we were supposed to be up in space exploring. But instead, we're still fighting over resources and things like, oh, you're black? I don't like you. It's a mess. And the only way we are going to get through this is to be better people and to elect people who want to do the job. And unfortunately, we have people like this young lady who want to call out black leadership, but don't want to think about what they can do to make things better. Ugh, that Kim Kardashian picture pissed me off. I'm not even gonna. I refuse to give the Kardashians any play. The main topic is gatekeeping. And the reason why, not just because I'm a writer, even though that is a main heart of it, it hurts. One of the bigger series that got released this week, or was it last week? I don't remember. Is that Game of Thrones series? I haven't sat through it yet. There is so much to watch now that most of us are home streaming. It was in my to watch list. But of course, like everything that I enjoy in entertainment, you have to deal with the negative neckbeards. That's why I haven't gotten into House of Dragons either. Fandoms are toxic. I say this as a gamer. One of the worst things about being in the gaming industry, whether you're a player, whether you did promotions like I used to, was the amount of acceptable racism that is allowed in entertainment. And it's because you've got assholes like this who run it. Now, I've loved so much of Tim Burton's work, but look at how he has aged this man. He has put out some of my favorite things. I still got my Jack Skellington cup because Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my favorites. Beetlejuice was one of my favorites. His version of Batman will go down as one of my favorite movies as a kid. But the reality of dealing with men like Tim Burton is they push against diversity. And it's sad because they inspire fans to say things like, well, I couldn't understand Lilo and Stitch because the characters didn't speak to me. Of course, they're brown. Same argument they had against Manoa and so many other stories that didn't culturally represent certain people who are normally the entertainment default. But hearing him being quoted, and I'm going to say that's a quote, even though it's more than likely him who said it. I remember when I was a child watching the Brady Bunch, and they got all politically correct. Let's have an Asian child and a black. I grew up watching blaxploitation movies. I didn't go, there should be more white people, but there were white people in blaxploitation movies. And what drives me up a wall is the Brady Bunch was hardly the poster child of diversity. Yet for Tim Burton, that was his crux. That was the reason why casting black people in his movies is so few and far between. Because when he was a child, it was a step too far to have Asian and black people who, last I checked, lived in California on the Brady Bunch. These are the men who are running entertainment. And it's not okay anymore. I grew up in a time where it felt like TV and entertainment was so segregated. You had shows that had black families, but we were either living in poverty or coming on up out of poverty. There was always that theme. Or we were the orphan kids that got adopted by the white family. It wasn't to the Cosby Show, which unfortunately for my personal reasons I can't watch anymore. that you finally started to see upper middle class and middle class black families represented in a positive light. But for a lot of us growing up, seeing people who look like us, whether it was strong women, smart women, people who weren't struggling, was so few and far between. And that's why we love people like Uhura. We loved Alexis Colby and other people that really showed that black women were not only versatile, but we belonged in places that some people didn't think we did. But you have men like Tim Burton who inspire fans, who like to run people like Rose Tran off of her social media because how dare they put an Asian woman in a space drama? Because in their mind, elves only look a certain color, blonde hair, blue eye, white skin. Forgetting that there are brown elves, there are black elves, there are moon elves, there are elves of purple skin. Because it's fucking fantasy. But the problem with fantasy is that a lot of literary legends, a lot of people who have made it in the industry are white. Look at even the Harry Potter series. Homegirl came out as a full-on TERF, so I don't fuck with her or any of her work. But she tried to say that Dumbledore was gay and Hermione was supposed to be a black girl, but she loved how much Emma Watson played her, so she didn't push too hard. But for somebody like me, who not only as a black writer has to fight harder to get my work out there, but if I say a character is a certain ethnicity, that's who I want representing them. Because we don't have that luxury of being the default in any medium or entertainment. And it is so frustrating when you have white writers who are always given carte blanche in both literary and entertainment, setting the tone for stuff. And then you have fans that are going, well, they shouldn't have people of color in video games or Lord of the Rings. They're making it too woke. And that is where I pause. Because you're saying that representing humans, which come in every shape, tone, walk of life, is being too woke. What's that say about your attitude? The people who say that never want to reflect, though. They never want to think about how easy it is for them to fall into that pattern of these people don't look like me. I feel attacked. They pulled that shit with Black Panther. They wanted so badly to ding Black Panther as this hyper political thing, and it wasn't. It was so brilliantly done. Showcasing family, showcasing betrayal, showcasing what it means to be actually tribal. How keeping to yourself can be both a good and a bad thing. There were so many well done themes in that movie, but there were so many angry white people who wanted to ding it, who wanted to try to say, "Oh, too many black people in this. They're going to be political. They're going to talk bad about white people." Outside that one colonizer joke, there was absolutely we didn't have time for it. And it was still one of the best Marvel movies, in my opinion, because it had the heart and it had the soul that was missing from so many other movies that have to revolve around stuff like that. And what I feel Hollywood lacks is that aesthetic of, even if a person isn't of that cultural background, a role should go to who can act it out. That's why Idris Elba as a Norse character made sense to me. He's a brilliant actor. That's why so many of us would watch a James Bond movie with his ass as James Bond. But too many people are like, well, James Bond has always been white. I don't know how I feel about that. How about stop feeling so fucking racist? But one of the things I want people to understand is that we exist. And as a writer, as somebody who wrote my own story, I had to write diversity in the way I know. Because I grew up around all sorts of culture. And I respect them enough to faithfully adapt people into this book without mocking them, without stereotyping them, showing how real humans behave, no matter what their ethnic background is. One of the things somebody said to me that I realized I was doing the right thing was, well, I didn't really get the vibe this person was black. And this is not to ding them, because I was just happy to have that conversation. But I need people to realize that when they say stuff like that, you need to do some introspecting, because that's the same shit people say to me when I'm code switching and talking to them with my professional voice. I've heard way too many times that I didn't seem black, like that's a compliment, and it's not. It means you don't understand black people. You don't understand that we come in every shade, tone. We come from every walk of life, and it's really insulting to tell me as a black woman that I don't seem black enough because I don't act a certain way, because unfortunately for some of you, the default for you is that black women are either out of pocket, angry, wild, or whatnot. You don't understand that there are genteel black women, especially southern black women. You don't understand that we have so many different facets to ourselves. So when you look at characters like Kayla, you might not automatically see a black woman, but that's the point. You're supposed to see yourself in her. She just happens to have my skin color. That's the reality of being human. So many of us are so similar, and it's ridiculous to me that there are people that legitimately don't think we belong in fantasy. And you gotta understand, I'm saying this as somebody who likes anime and manga, who, when those mediums do put people like me in, it's always horrific. So I beg them not to a lot of times. Having to insert yourself in the fantasy is exhausting, because it's a constant reminder that these people don't want you in their space, or they can't imagine a place with people like you in it, and it's hurtful. And for those of you who are so used to being the default in entertainment, you can't understand what that feels like. And then on the same side, you rally against people who dare to write stuff for us. Like, I'm literally working on isekai that's based on African mythology, and I know one of the core arguments is gonna be, well, there's not any white people in it. Exactly. I have a story where I have all kinds of diversity, but I wanted a story for my people because I'm sick and tired of seeing us portrayed as savages. One of my favorite pastimes is D&D, and they just had another controversy where they had to get rid of a whole section of a new player guide because they had this race of people, so-called people, these monkeys that were humanoid, that pretty much was racially insensitive. I say this as somebody who had a humanoid like simian creature in my story. If it's done well, you're not going to offend people. But when you are literally mocking a whole group of people's ethnicity by reducing us to animals, that's a problem. And that's a problem way too many people who are used to being the default don't see an issue with. You will call out the fact that black actors and actresses are being added to stuff like Star Wars series or Lord of the Rings. But the moment we call out something like the Fantastic Four movie, which casted one black Storm sibling but left all the rest of the family white, the director wanted to say, well, you're being racist because of that. No, because I like Michael B. Jordan. I think he's one of my favorite actors. I just thought that movie was crap, and that if you're going to turn a whole family black, fine. But just to take one and not really explain why that one is black and everybody else is white made no fucking sense. But you didn't want to do a Black Sue Storm. And you know what? If you don't want to do Black Sue Storm, you shouldn't have did a Black Johnny. That's the problem I have with Hollywood right now. There are way too many people who think woke is, we'll just stick a black character in it. We don't care how it looks. We don't care the optics. We don't care if it's even the right fit. We just want to look diverse. We don't want to hire diverse writers. We don't want to get more women in. We don't want to get more people of color in. We don't want to do representation right. And it's not just my community that suffers. I have spoken up several times about, and I don't like using the term yellow face because it seems really racist, but the fact that white people think they can just play Asian roles has been ongoing since early Hollywood cinema, and it has to stop. I remember Mickey Rooney's fucking cringe-worthy Japanese man rendition with those teeth, and he's not even the worst of it. And people want to go, well, a white actor should be able to play what they want if you're saying black actors can play what they want. But that's the problem. White actors constantly have representation. They don't have any problem getting work in Hollywood. Despite what assholes like Patterson says about how they're being canceled, white people are constantly the default in entertainment. You look at every current Hollywood blockbuster out, it is hyper focused on white people. So you need to miss me with that whole idea that calling for actual diversity, hiring actors based on their merit is bad. I would love less movies where it has to be all one cast. Or if it's going to be that way, having it where it's not such a one-off. We should have more movies where people of color in general can go and enjoy themselves and not feel like they're being mocked, not feel like a stereotype. But unfortunately, we still don't have enough influence. And that's why so many of us are going the independent route. We kind of have to at this point. Hollywood is still not getting it. And after hundreds of years of dominating the entertainment scene, we still allow this default narrative of our lead actor and actress have to appeal to white people. And I don't understand why. Most white people don't even want to be white anymore. And that's just the reality. I'm not saying anything too controversial. You look at some of the biggest influencer stars, they steal all their dances, looks, implants from black people. Though, from what I've seen of Trailer Trash Kardashian's newest photo shred, she's moving over to country, y'all. If you're into country and western, hide your men, because I have a feeling the Kardashians are coming after them. They done wearing out all the sister girl act. So now they're bleach blonde and in acid wash denim, wearing thongs and USA underwear. They're coming after your countrymen, and I'm just giving you a heads up. Because some of my sister girls in the South, I know yous know better. I know yous like to fight, and yous might have to fight some of these heifers for your men. But I also know that, she's got a way about her. She has gone through enough brothers. So she's going to move on to the country scene. I have that feeling. She is giving all those vibes. So I am just giving you a Kardashian heads up. She's gone country. And I won't be shocked at all if her next boyfriend is somebody on the country music scene. Whether he's younger or older, I don't know. But, she went with Pete Davidson, so anything's possible. And I just can't with the culture vultures, because people will stand somebody like Kim Kardashian, who is obviously, she changes worse than Barbie. At least Barbie has a reason to why she has to change form and figure and stuff. This woman literally will claim whatever cultural identity gets her attention. I hate the fact that I'm even bringing her up, but the fact is, she is what constitutes its entertainment. People in our media, people on TMZ and other outlets talk about her because she is what constitutes as entertainment, going viral. And I need people to understand that navigating that as a black woman is already frustrating enough, because the shit they stand about her, we get naturally. Big booties, big lips, we have to get injections to get those. That's a natural God-given thing. But on dark skin, it's a bridge too far for some of you. Rallying against shows like Bridgerton because, how dare two couples that don't look like each other interact. It's not historically accurate, bitch, it's fantasy. The problem with arguing against fantasy and entertainment with racist type leans is y'all shit is boring. I don't want to sit through another what if the Nazis won fantasy. I don't want to sit through anymore. I'm a wealthy white person out of touch with everything. Here's my drama. That's why I don't watch soap operas. You, I grew up with those soap operas. Some of these actors are still on there from when I was little. And they're still doing the same shit, sleeping with the same people, having kids left and right who are grown the next. I don't understand it. And I don't knock the people who still watch it because, everybody has something that they're drawn into. Like I said before, huge anime and manga fan. But what I don't understand about these shows is how it's the same garbage over and over, just with less people of color. And I guess that's what people think is entertainment. Not for me. I want to see more people that look like me. I want to see more shows that highlight diversity. And not just diversity of almost the whole cast is white and you got the one funny black friend or the one serious black friend. One of the shows that I've been heavily into, thanks to Greg, is The Orville. Is it a perfect show? I don't think there's any such thing as perfect. But I think it's damn near that. There are characters I love. There are characters I can't stand. There are characters I side-eye. It pulls a visceral reaction from you because it's well written and well acted. Even when I'm rolling my eyes at the multitude of musical numbers, because I get Broadway flashbacks. I'm from New York. I performed on stage. Musicals are touch and go for me. Sometimes I like them. Sometimes it's like singing again. But what I like about The Orville is that it's in your face, not only with diversity, but with topics that most people wouldn't touch. What would a society of two male characters in relationships that are anti-female be like? What would their female counterparts to that be? What would it be like to have a whole race of people that think that anybody beneath them is worthy of killing? What if you were a sentient being that was created for servitude, but you pull free your bonds, but you never want to go back? What would you do? Now, that's the only issue I truly had with the writing of The Orville, because I feel like the Kylons were supposed to be an allegory to black people, but what people don't realize about my people, and I'm not saying all of us, because we have violent humans just like everybody else, but for the most part, we just want peace. We want to exist. We want the same treatment as every other American citizen or British citizen or any nationality where we exist in. We just want to be human. And I feel like the whole idea that if we had power, we go wiping people out is bullshit. Because we have powerful black people. And sure, we have those that sell their soul to the GOP. But for the most part, we have people doing right by our community and beyond. We have people like King James. We have people like the Carters who give tons of money to their community and beyond. And they are living their best life. We have the Williams sisters who not only are helping young black athletes, but are partnering to help stabilize communities. So when I see tweets like that young lady asking where black people are for Jackson, Mississippi, we're kind of busy, but we're still doing what we can. But we need all people who care about the environment and humanity, who care about entertainment, being more diverse, to do your part. Help those who want to get their stories out there. Patronize those who put out works that feature actual diversity. If you want change, you have to make the effort. And unfortunately, it's much easier to complain for some of you than it is to actually put in the effort. And that is why we have so many entertainment color gatekeepers. The color guard, as I'm going to start calling them. That want to ding shows for being too woke. That want to ding video games because they dare have options for people of color to be involved. And I'm tired of hearing about historical accuracy because last I checked, we've been around since the beginning of time. So acting like we can't be in past stuff because it wouldn't be historical accurate, or acting like we can't be in fantasy worlds which are literally fucking made up in the first place, has to stop. One of my favorite games of all time is the Dragon's Age series. I've been playing since Origins. I've played Inquisition. I'm doing another playthrough. I don't play it live on stream anymore because your fandom is kind of toxic. And the last time I streamed it live, I got into an argument with somebody about me killing dragons, which, yeah, I'm gonna kill dragons. I don't care. Like, it's my game. If you do your way. But one of the things that bothered me in Inquisition was one of the NPCs in the game. I don't particularly like her because of her attitude. I think she's beautiful, but her attitude irks me. She's one of those mages that sided with the people who oppress mages. As somebody who plays mages, I'm not down with siding with oppressors. For me, mages and elves in Dragon's Age are the black people of the world. It's just a reality. They put up with unfair oppression, slavery, and the worst lot in life, all because of who they were. So when I play somebody who is literally an elf mage, I don't want to deal with another mage who's like, you know what, being a slave to the circles wasn't so bad. That was my whole issue with Vivian, not her looks. Unfortunately, for most of the Dragon's Age community, allowing a certain loud sect to mock her physical appearance, mock whether or not she deserved to be where she is in the roster of characters because she represented a black woman, was hard. Because for the most part, the Dragon's Age community has been amazing. I watch videos from I'm blanking on her name. She makes amazing rundowns of lore and everything else. I'll get her name later on. There are amazing people within the BioWare community, but there are a lot of nasty color guard gatekeepers too. So I don't join in forum stuff. I don't put out there that I'm a huge Dragon's Age fan anymore because of it. Because racism erodes any goodwill somebody who looks like me has for gaming. And when you have people so vehement against who you are in the medium where you go to escape, it's hard. One of the things that I sat in the other day, and I say sat in because I was trying to play the game when I had a little bit of downtime, I was listening to one of my friends' streams, Stream Tom. He's live now. He's an amazing gamer. And he's pretty much one of those open-minded, I'm going to have fun with my friends type person. I've never got the vibe from him that he cared about anything so superficial. But he had to get in it with somebody sitting in his chat that wanted to literally argue the merits of having people of color in this Lord of the Rings thing. And it's frustrating to me. And one of their arguments was, well, you wouldn't do a biopic with MLK using a white man. And it's like, but if Hollywood thought they could get away with it, they would. And I counted that because that was all the X-Men were. They modeled Charles Xavier, and this is from the creators, as Martin Luther King, and they modeled Magneto after Malcolm X. They wanted to parallel the civil rights movement and what they saw black people going through. The mutants were an allegory for what it's like to be hated for something that you cannot change about yourself, something that makes you shine, that could help people, but people don't want to see it because they can't get past their hate. So when I see some weirdo guy that probably went to an all-white school, probably, if they're lucky, knows maybe one or two black people at work or around, but don't really know black people, getting online to say, oh, you can't have black people in my fantasy. What if I decided to do a historically inaccurate thing that should add a black person in it? You mean like Hollywood's been doing for years? Like, come on now. You're not making a salient argument at this point. You're just reinforcing. And it's like I said in politic arguments, the moment you have to deflect with the what if, you've already lost for me. Because it's not about what if we replace MLK biopic with a white man. It's why are we even talking about an MLK biopic in the realms of a fucking fantasy novel? It's because you want to hold on to that white supremacy. That illusion of you being the default can't be shattered. And it's really painfully obvious that any thought of inclusion makes you feel less than, and it shouldn't. Because in a good story, You can showcase all walks of life. You can showcase them together. But unfortunately, we're still not hiring writers. We're still not highlighting stories that do that. And worse yet, we are putting out steaming piles of garbage with characters of color. Like that, one of the things that I feel like is a consensus amongst a lot of us. There were a few that were fans, and I'm sorry to those of you who are Eternals fans. I wanted to like that movie. There were plenty of characters within that movie that I feel if they had more plot and given actual scenes that made sense, would have been fun to watch. But instead, they tried to condense a whole bunch of stories into this really weird plot and just threw together a bunch of big names into a movie. It was like a cowboy stew. You've never had cowboy stew, you're a lucky person. Because some cowboy stews might be good, but most cowboy stews is just anything you can find but the kitchen sink into a pot and hope for the best because it's just a stew. And unfortunately, that movie was a bad cowboy stew. You had a bunch of big prime cut type actors that their stories went nowhere. They pushed that Salma Hayek was going to be a star, and you got 5 minutes of her. The story absolutely made no sense, and it was made worse when you find out that these are literal sentient robots, something that is near and dear to my heart if you have read my novel. And none of it made sense. And that is the problem when you try to force diversity into a non-linear story and you try to put too much all at once. They could have easily took half of those plots and made it into a TV series, spaced it out, gave us those characters in their full glory, and made something of it. But instead, they tried to condense it into a movie, and it didn't make sense. And that is a problem with color coding and gatekeeping. You end up with shit like that when they try to do a diversity movie. I know that there are great writers out there. We've got amazing directors in all walks of life. But we also still have assholes like Tim Burton who have already established themselves, who don't think that they need to add black actors because apparently the Brady Bunch doing it back in the 70s was a bridge too far. And these guys are still holding sway in what counts as entertainment. And it's sad because there are still American children that go to a movie theater and don't see themselves positively represented. Or when they are represented, it's as animals or as non-linear people. And it's got to stop. Shang-Chi was one of the first times in modern history that wasn't like a serious drama or a comedy that I got to see Asian fantasy and mythology done right. And we need more of that. And it's just really frustrating. It's been like 20 years since The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I grew up watching movies with my dad with Bruce Lee. So I know Asian movies can be done well. But unfortunately, we still have this weird block for our entertainment. And it has to literally come out of Asia. That's why movies like Parasite did so well. But we have amazing Asian Americans here who just need the chance to be heard. We have amazing Hispanic Americans that come in different cultural aspects because I think people don't understand that. That's why that whole idea of casting James Franco as Fidel Castro was such a slap in the face because we have so many amazing Cuban American actors that would fucking bring so much life to that role and understand the nuances of playing it. But oh no, Hollywood's like, well, James Franco kind of looks the part. Put a beard on him, slap a few pounds, it'll be good. It's like casting Charlize Theron as everything, or homegirl. I'm blanking on her name right now. She's Marvel woman too. At some point, you have to say enough. They're good actors. I don't want to take anything from the fact that there are plenty of stuff that I've watched these actors and actresses in that I've enjoyed. But when it comes to playing roles that are culturally significant to people, It is okay for those people and beyond to say, maybe hire somebody from that culture to play that role. It is okay to want representation. It is not okay to say, well, if you give this representation, I feel left out. What about me? Because especially coming from the people who are used to seeing themselves on TV, used to seeing themselves on the big screen, used to dolls that look like them. Need I remind you, some of us are old enough to remember going into Toys R Us and going into those big ass doll aisles and seeing sea of white faces. And if we were lucky, they might have had a black doll in the back. That's a reality for some of us. When you're seeing Star Trek figures, and if you were lucky, you might get a horror thing, but not often. We were constantly the side characters and left out of so many fictional universes or treated as savages in our favor. One of the things that I had to rectify in loving a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's work, besides his odious ideals on women, anti-Semitic leans, his whole persona is somebody I wouldn't fuck with, but I still loved a lot of his stories, is the fact that he treated anyone black or brown like savages, even in his works, and I wanted to get away from that. It's hard when you love certain literary things, but you realize that it was never meant for you, and it was meant to make you feel excluded. And I want to see less of that. That's why instead of just complaining, I decided to do the work. But it isn't easy. And I am still up against so many walls and bridges that don't want me to cross, because how dare I? How dare I bring realistic Black and Asian and Southeast Asian characters to the mix? How dare I show diversity? How dare I show good and bad people of all walks of life? But that is the way we have to move forward if we are going to have progress and less gatekeeping and entertainment. We have to start showing more realistic portrayals of us. That's why I had to check myself, because one of my things with the Orville that really still kind of bothers me as a Black mom, I'm sorry, this is just the way I feel, is the way the doctors portray. The way her sons talk to her. My son sat with me once when her oldest backmouthed her, and the way he looked at me was like, did he say that to her? Because it wouldn't be us. And I don't say this like I harm my kid at all. I say this as somebody who my child respects. There's absolutely no way I would take that level of talk to me. And as somebody as tough as she has portrayed herself, I just don't understand why she lets her kids mouth her off. But I realize that some people do that. Even amongst us, some people allow their kids that line to cross. Couldn't be me. I love my son. He is my world, but he knows don't disrespect your mom. But I realize that by trying to ding them for writing a doctor like that, I am trying to force the way I am on the character, and I don't want to do that, because we are not a monolith. We are very interchangeable, and just because I do certain things a certain way doesn't mean every Black woman does certain things a certain way. But it does kind of chafe me when I see the way her boys talk to her. That's just the way it is with me, you know? But I chafe the same way when I see that one Mocklin husband too, because he just gets on my nerves. He's a bit too extra with his nonsense. And that whole third season, I don't want to give too many spoilers if people haven't watched it. They're going to go through some things, and yeah, Boris should have left that motherfucker as far as I'm concerned. But I'm just like, I really wanted to have a chiller Bonnet Chronicles today. But it isn't easy because there is just so much going on. Friday, we are going to go into a real deep dive on the media because they have been out of pocket homegirls arguing on Twitter with people. They are trying so hard, both sides, because most of our media outlets are owned by not only foreign entities, but pro-Trump billionaires. It is a mess. And they would love for us to be back into the chaotic mess of 45. So we have to start looking at ways to wean ourselves off of the constant toxic news cycles, to cut the cord if needed, to stop giving revenue, clicks, and views to their garbage. They want to target the Fox News right-winger types. Let them have it, because I guarantee you those shares aren't going to go up with those people. What I need the rest of us to do is to be smarter in what we ingest, verify whatever we put out there, and be wary of all the Psy-Ops out there, because we are literally, I don't want to think that we're going to head towards a world war, but Putin doesn't seem to want to give up this whole idea of attacking former states. With Gorbachev passing and so much going on overseas, we are in tenuous times, and we are not okay here. And when our president calls out the misbehavior and fascism, and our news media decides to go radio silent on him, that's a problem. We are on our own with this, and we have to hunker down, verify, and keep focus. Because we're not going to get any help from our fourth estate. It is broken. It has been broken. And I don't see it being repaired anytime soon. So support your independent journalists. Support people like the Palmer Report. And I know some people, oh, the Palmer Report is... No, he does a lot of hard work. I've been following him for years now. He does his due diligence. There are plenty of people online that just want to keep things factual, want to keep information out there, because we realize we can't play these games anymore. Too many of us lost loved ones and family and friends to the fallout of 45. We cannot afford for the Psy-Ops to drag us back. And that's what they want to do. They want to destabilize us on a global level. And it is on you guys that sit and ingest things like CNN, that want to argue with Brianna instead of blocking that heifer. I knew she was compromised. It was funny having my one friend talk about her husband who had military contract ties. But honestly speaking, continuously giving her attention is exactly how she elevates her platform. It is the saddest part about social media. Engagement is the biggest currency. So yous have got to stop giving these clout goblins that engagement. I know it doesn't seem easy, because a lot of us, it didn't make sense at first. I didn't understand the power of influence, the power of even negative attention, until I watched people be that Twitter main villain and get those viral tweets. And unfortunately for us, the more amplification we give to these people, the more attention we give to these people, the more lucrative it is for them. That's why I've begged people, and I continue to beg people, stop engaging these people. When they realize that they're controversial, bigoted, sexist, supposedly theological tweets aren't getting the attention that they want, they move on. But they're not going to stop, because that is their whole point, is to get people looking and interacting with them. There are plenty of yous who interact with each other. Why do you need to argue with these dillweeds and idiots that are trying to get you riled up? I want people to be smarter on social media. And I know it's possible. I went from being, I'm going to drag, fight, and argue with people 24/7 to realizing that I don't have to be on there doing that. And it's not just because I'm right and now. It is literally because the older I get, the less time I'm promised. And I don't want to spend every waking moment that I should be enjoying myself online arguing with people that just want to get a rile out of me. And I need more of you to understand that that's all they do. That is like a job for some of them people. And you need to stop making that job lucrative for them. I'm going to get ready to wrap things up. Terry, thank you so much for sitting in. You have been a constant support, and I really appreciate you. And I want to thank everybody who has been rebroadcasting the Bonnet Chronicles, going on my Twitter, watching them on Twitch, everybody who's been sharing the Kickstarter and everything else. I really appreciate all of you. I'm going to be back on Friday for my hour Bonnet Chronicles session, and hopefully we will get this Tuesday thing worked out. So far, so good with kiddo in school. He had a bit of problem with math, but, you know, it happens. It's high school. Thank you all so much. And once again, my book is Axiom. If you want to help out, I will have links in the description. And our Kickstarter is still going strong. We have until the 20th to hit the goal. So any play, any help will be so appreciated. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And I will see you in a couple of days.